You guys know how passionate I am to see parents discipling their children in the Bible. And while it doesn't have to be complicated, it does have to be intentional. That's why I'm excited to introduce you guys to the Illuminate Bible series from my friends at Lifestone Ministries. This is a Bible curriculum that's designed to grow with your child from first grade all the way through high school. So whether your child is just starting to read or asking deeper questions about faith and culture, Illuminate meets them right where they are and helps them build a lasting relationship with Jesus. Each week, you'll walk through a simple 5-step approach. You'll look at a Bible story, check out the context around it, see how it connects to the rest of Scripture, study the theology behind it, and find out what it means for real life. It's designed for families, so you don't need 5 different books for 5 different kids. You can go through it together using workbooks tailored to the ages of your kids. So if you've been looking for a way to disciple your kids without adding more stress to your day, this is it. For more information, visit lifestoneministries.com/Heidi to learn more about this amazing homeschooling tool. Well, hey, everybody, this is Heidi St. John. Welcome to the Heidi St. John podcast. I spend an awful lot of my time here at the show encouraging people to homeschool their kids, encouraging you guys pull your children out of government schools. I still believe that your worst day as a homeschool parent is going to be better than your child's best day in the woke indoctrination system known as our government schools. And my guest today knows an awful lot about this. Rebecca Friedrichs is joining me in the studio today. She is a 28-year public school teacher, and she exited the public schools and has spent the last several years really sounding the alarm bells about what's happening in the schools, the woke agenda of the National Educators Association, and reminding teachers that they don't have to pay dues to such a woke union. She is a wealth of information. And as a former public school educator, I asked her to talk to me today about phonics, the changes that we see happening in our school curriculum, and just to give some encouragement to you guys as you navigate this journey as homeschool parents. Today's podcast is being sponsored in part by my friends at the Functional Medical Institute. Be sure and visit them at homeschoolhealth.com and stick around. I think you're going to be encouraged. Thank you guys for tuning in today. As you can hear, I am struggling with my voice today, so I really appreciate your patience as I work through healing up my voice. This is a very busy time of year for me, and so sometimes the lack of sleep and the travel gets to me, and in this case, that's certainly what's happened. So I hope it doesn't detract from the show today, because I am absolutely thrilled to welcome Rebecca Friedrichs back to the Heidi St. John podcast. Listen, I love this woman. She's a warrior for the truth. She has a passion to see who Thomas Jefferson called the rising generation, educated in righteousness. And so she's here to talk about what's going on in the schools, and we're going to talk about phonics today. Rebecca Friedrichs, welcome back. I'm glad you're here.
Thank you for having me back.
Always so much fun to have you. And you and I have a shared passion for helping parents really to embrace their role as the educators of their kids. And I know as a public school teacher, and we didn't really talk about this before, because I'm going to throw it at you, but I think you can handle it.
Okay.
When you were working full-time in the schools, did you notice that parents would drop their kids off and disengage?
Yes, 100%. Sadly.
Yeah.
I think they've been told by the culture. I know they've been told by the National Education Association and the propaganda they put out there that the parents don't have what it takes to educate their children, and that they need experts to educate their children. I'm here to say that the experts, okay, now, first of all, I'm not bashing public school teachers. There's a lot of really good teachers in the public schools. I was one of them. I worked many years in the public schools, but they're all under a very corrupt system. And so it doesn't matter how great some teacher is. There's only so much they can do, and their hands are tied in so many ways. And the culture of the school system's gotten so corrupted. So this is not about good teachers that are in that system. So anyway, parents have been told, your child can only learn in this system. You can't do it yourself.
Yeah.
And that's always broken my heart, because the Lord tells us the exact opposite. The Lord says that it's our job to educate our children, and you teach them in His Word, bind it on them, have it all over your home. And so we have to be careful. What voice are we hearing, right? Are we listening to the voice of God, or are we listening to the voice of our culture? And so what I saw with a lot of these parents, actually it happened over time. So it used to be I would see parents engaged, and then they became less and less and less engaged. And then at one point, I remember this wonderful parent, a missionary from South Korea who became a good friend of mine. She was very engaged. She'd come work in my classroom. She'd help her son. I mean, it was incredible how he spoke zero English at the beginning of the year, and his English was incredible by the end of kindergarten. But she was trying to be engaged. She would send emails to the principal. The principal would never respond. She would go to school board meetings. She felt shut out. And she told me, I feel shut out of this system.
Wow.
So that's what I saw happening was the school system became started kind of being against parents and pushing them out. And I saw that over and over again. I also saw it with the way school boards are taught to think. So a lot of people don't realize there's something called the National School Board Association, and then they have state level associations as well.
Naturally.
Of course.
Because it wouldn't be any fun unless they could have that.
Exactly. Well, so what they do is they propagandize and manipulate the minds of these school board members. So I've had a lot of good friends, decent people become school board members, and then they start saying things I thought they would never say. Not bad things, but things like, oh, well, I'm going to vote for this based on what's best for the district. Well, wait a minute. We don't vote on what's best for the district.
Right.
What's best for the children? What's best for their education and the community? So what happens is the school board association starts to manipulate the minds of school board members. So then you hear the same talking points coming out of their mouths, no matter what district you're visiting, you hear the same exact story. So that frightens me, because they would say things to me like, children are resilient.
Oh, come on.
Oh, I kid you not.
So let's expose them to evil. They'll be fine.
Exactly. Or it would be like the third week of school, and they decided, oh, we're going to have to break up your classroom and make 5 different, they move all the kids around. Okay, they finally got used to their teacher. They're comfortable. And now 5 different classrooms are going to have kids removed and a new class started, because the numbers weren't what they thought they were going to be at the beginning of the year, because it's all about numbers. It's all about money. You can't possibly have a class that's just a little bit small. You have, it's all about money. So these kids were heartbroken and moved to different classroom, maybe moved into a situation that wasn't best for them, moved into a combination 2 grade level class or whatever. And they would say, oh, kids are resilient. They'll be fine. So my argument is, no, kids are not resilient, and no, they're not fine. I mean, they're resilient in some ways, but you know what I mean.
Well, that shouldn't be the mantra.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So parents, my dream and hope and prayer is that parents will reawaken and realize that God gave them a mandate to raise their own children in His Word, in His truth, and that they will, rise up to it. I've seen so many parents that have said to me, dozens of parents have said to me, I can't do it. I can't homeschool. And I would say, why not? I'm not smart enough. I'm not good enough. I don't know enough. I can't do the math, whatever. I would say to them, that's not true. Like you said in your opening, your worst day as a homeschooler is better than their best day at a public school. And I say that as a public school teacher who worked hard and did a really good job. I had this one mom who told me, she goes, I don't read English. I said, well, then you and your child learn phonics together.
Yes.
Right? It's still better for you to
That's the
teach your
secret.
child at home. Yes, I've learned that from so many homeschooling parents. They are finally realizing they weren't educated well.
That's right.
Once they start educating their kids from home, and they're using some great program that's been written for them, and they realize, I didn't get an education. So I would just urge parents, get over that fear. Don't listen to the propaganda. Your child was given to you by God and is your responsibility, is your treasure, and God's going to give you all you need. And with, my goodness, with all the resources nowadays, there's just...
Oh, yeah. I think it's
Anyone
part of the
can do
reason why the Homeschool Resource Center has exploded the way that it has, because we're coming up alongside parents and we're saying, hey, let's do this thing together.
Yeah.
We'll help you.
Yeah.
We'll get this thing done together. I think it's fascinating, and love to hear your thoughts on this, that we could come out of a system of education that used to be some among the best in the world. I mean, in the early, like we said in the last time you heard, the founding fathers were largely home educated.
Yes, they were.
And this was the most literate generation. I mean, the Federalist Papers were written by these guys.
Remarkable.
Right? using really cheap primers, and it's just hard work.
And the Bible.
And the Bible. And let's just stay, let's stay in there. Yeah. But now we've got a generation of people who are going to these schools, and I would put myself in this category too. I went to a very, I thought, a very good Christian school, kindergarten through 12th grade. My grandparents sent me to school there. And I think it's interesting that we get out of these schools and we don't feel equipped to teach a 5-year-old to read.
Exactly.
What? That's propaganda.
Exactly. It is propaganda. And you're bringing something to mind. I think most people don't realize this. The people who are promoting the propaganda, the teachers' unions and their friends, they're telling all of us, oh, the teachers nowadays know more than you. They're the experts because they have a bachelor's degree or a master's degree or whatever. Never mind that all they learn in those degrees is a bunch of propaganda. But did you know that in the old days, when America was her greatest, that founding generation, did you know that a teacher did not have to go to college to become a teacher? All you had to do was, finish the curricula in the elementary, like they basically went to 8th grade and they knew a heck of a lot more than we do now. As long as they were proficient and could pass the teacher test, they could teach. So I agree with you. We come out of our well, you had a private school. A lot of them are very similar to our public schools. Maybe they don't have the crazy stuff going on, but the learning has been dumbed down to such a degree that, like you said, these parents feel like they can't even teach reading to their kids.
And I think you're right. I mean, we've been propagandized to believe that we can't. The NEA, who you are probably one of the biggest critics of the NEA in the nation, they have a really dim view of homeschooling.
They do.
And in 2020, they highlighted, this is what they said, that home-based education arrangements, of course, they're freaking out because kids are dropping like flies out of the public school system in the scamdemic, right? Yeah. And so they were saying that homeschooling doesn't uphold a student's rights. This is so fascinating.
Yeah, that's a twist. You mean it doesn't uphold the rights of the union and their perverted friends to have unfettered access to those children. That's what it really means.
Yeah, they call that homeschooling is a lack of transparency.
Wow.
And I thought,
wow,
these guys, and they say it's potentially worsening inequities. You're talking about marginalized students.
Wow.
And so when I look at the NEA, it acknowledges the role of homeschooling, but they advocate for robust oversight. I mean, the NEA would have homeschooling locked down as tight as they could.
Oh, they'd be telling you what curricula you can use.
100%.
And it would be loaded with their agenda.
Yeah. It seems to me that the NEA and a lot of these, super woke teachers who are really just activists disguised as teachers, they understand the power of education.
They do.
And Jesus understood it.
Yes, he
In
did.
Luke 6:40, Jesus was chastising the crowd. And he said, listen, talking about the Pharisees, when the student's fully trained, he'll be like his teacher.
Yeah. Wow.
Well, education is powerful.
It is.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's education.
Yeah, that's right.
And we have to understand the power of it and the responsibility, as you rightly pointed out, that we have been given by God to train up our children in the way they should go. Right. And so we're seeing massive changes right now in the education sphere, not the least of which is Linda McMahon under Trump's directive dismantling the Department of Education.
Yes. Perfect woman for the job.
Love to get your thoughts.
It's so needed. I'm thrilled. Okay, so let me tell you. Years ago, my husband and I were just chatting. What could we do to fix the education system? It's like 20 years ago. And both of us said the same thing. We need to shut down the National Department of Education. I told him it would be my dream to be appointed so I could shut it down the next day, which is, you can't just do it in a day. But it's a must. It's a must. So when you go back in America's history, the government wasn't involved in education, and we didn't have a Department of Education at any level, at the state, the county, the federal. So all of that behemoth was actually fought for by the unions. So it wasn't like you and I, average Americans, said, hey, we need a Department of Education. It was these, you mentioned earlier, John Dewey and friends, 100%. These radicals who came in and said, we need a Department of Education. Why did they want that? So that they could have control. And we have to remember, their goals. They don't hide it when you read their writings. They were socialists, which always turns into communists, socialists / communists, who intentionally destroyed a great educational system and brought in the Prussian system, brought in this system where the kids sit in their, lecture.
And the Prussian system was really a reaction to the Napoleonic Wars, when they were just like, hey, they lost massively, right? And so they look over, and the Germans are like, how are you guys doing that? And so they institute this Prussian model of education, whereby kids are stripped of their ability to think critically.
Exactly.
Because the whole point is we want to raise obedient workers,
right?
People who will say yes and no. And we saw this play out in spectacular fashion in COVID.
Yes, we did.
When they said stand on the dot, an entire generation of brainwashed followers didn't even question it. Exactly. There was no science to back it up. They didn't tell us why.
Exactly.
They just said do it. And they played fear factor everybody in real time.
Well, and speaking of no science to back it up, so all the things that these people have done to our educational system also had no science to back it up. So let's just take phonics first. So, because I think that's the most important. So it's about 1930s, early 1930. Americans are reading extremely well. I mean, we're like over 90% of Americans.
Apple,
Exactly. It's so simple.
It's so simple.
But we could read, we could write. I don't care if you were a farmer. You were able to read and write and read your Bible. I mean, you had comprehension. You had it all. Then all of a sudden in the mid-1930s, the teachers' unions and friends, including John Dewey, start sticking their noses in to remove phonics instruction. Okay, what's phonics instruction? Your audience knows this better than anyone. It's just knowing the sounds of the letters and then how to blend them. It's knowing if there's a blend of letters, what's that sound? Like SH, sh, right? Just bringing the letters together so that you can read anything. So what do? They bring in this look-say method where I remember when I was teaching, they were trying to get me to teach this.
Is it whole word? Is it this?
That's one of and they have all kinds of names for it. Look-say, whole word. Now they have something called cueing. And basically, you're teaching children to memorize words on a page rather than teaching them how to read. So when a child learns in a look-say method, cueing is crazy. Look at the picture. See if you can figure out the word based on looking at the picture. That's insane. I mean, really great reading instruction.
That's crippling.
It is crippling by design. And really great reading instruction, you don't need any pictures. I mean, you might want to have them for various reasons, but you don't need them. The children can learn they can learn the sounds and how to blend them and how to read words without any pictures. So they bring in this system, and the teachers of that day, mid-1930s, were saying, whoa, what are you doing? This isn't working. Bring back the phonics. We have 3,500 years of historical evidence that phonics works. If you have an alphabetical language like English.
Right back to the Phoenicians.
Exactly. You teach phonics, everybody learns.
Yep.
And okay, wait, I need to bring this up too. People nowadays, they're always talking about dyslexia, that there's all this dyslexia. Well, back in the early 1930s, nobody had ever heard of dyslexia. It was a very rare condition. Maybe some doctor that specialized in dyslexia had heard of it.
Like autism.
Yes, exactly. No one had ever heard of it. No one had seen it. So what happened? They remove the phonics instruction. They bring in this whole language nonsense. And now all of a sudden, you have students who not only can't read, but they're all of a sudden dyslexic. So it's the bad teaching methods, the educational quackery, as Samuel Blumenfeld would have called it.
That's a great name.
Yeah, I love it. He also called the unions the education cartel, which I love. Actually, he called them the education mafia.
Dude, that's right.
But a friend of mine said, wait a minute, the mafia likes America. So I changed it to education cartel. But anyway, the whole point is all of the problems we're having in our schools today, all of these children that can't, all of these adults that can't read, all of these people who can't function, was all by design. It all was brought in purposely by unions and their activist friends. And the teachers of those days were pushing back on it, and they were squashed. They were silenced. So we've had several generations now. Your parents, my parents, probably think they had a great education. They really didn't. You have to go back several generations to find a great education.
Isn't it interesting, the boomers today? I was reading some statistics last night, and they were saying the boomers, by far and away, are the most critical of Donald Trump. These are like the hippies, girl. These are the people.
Brainwashed.
100%.
Yeah.
I was like, and these are the people. And you don't think of them that way. Like when I think of boomers, I think these are the smart ones. No, this is not the greatest generation.
No.
These are the boomers. that, grew up going to Woodstock and got massively brainwashed. And now, in their 70s have like legit cases of Trump derangement syndrome.
For sure.
And all this stuff, it started in the education system.
It did.
That's where it came from.
That's right. And I'm so glad you bring that up because people always think it's social media. Social media is part of it. Social media is definitely changing the brain, but the root of it is the educational system. Who's putting it onto social media? The teachers' unions and their activist friends. So we have this very small number of activists who have a huge voice, and they have billions and billions to spend because they're taking money from people's paychecks, in the form of dues, which is why I'm always telling people, please stop funding the unions. So it's just, it's unbelievable. Parents will take their child to a school, drop them off thinking my child's going to learn how to read, write, do arithmetic, learn accurate history. Oh, maybe even learn some civics. How about some, geography? But that's not what's happening in most cases. Their kids are being indoctrinated and oftentimes, in my opinion, abused.
Yeah.
Because if you're being taught sexual content, that's child abuse. If you're being, even
if you're just not being taught to read, that's abusive.
That's abusive.
I'm sorry. We send you to school to learn to read.
Exactly.
I saw a video on social media a couple of days ago of a black man who was going to substitute teach in an inner city. And he comes out after a day, I guess, at the school, whatever, he sits in his car and films himself, as often happens. And he says, they told me that these kids were not learning and I didn't believe them. He said, I'm here to tell you, your kids are not learning. He said it was like Lord of the Flies inside that classroom. He's like, they don't know basic arithmetic. They don't know basic division. Their reading skills are terrible. These are tomorrow's teachers, tomorrow's doctors, tomorrow's lawyers, tomorrow's parents.
It's terrifying.
Yeah. And I thought, so interesting. Here is a teacher and he started crying. He's like, I did not go to school to come here and be an inmate in a penitentiary.
Right, exactly.
But that's what it feels like.
Right, and the inmates are in charge. Good for him. I hope it goes viral because you have all these loving teachers out there who really want to do a great job. And like I said before, their hands are tied. They're inside a corrupt system. The inmates being in charge, that's thanks to the teachers' unions too. So they brought in these discipline policies. And I think a lot of teachers might not be aware. If your school's using something called PBIS, which is positive behavior intervention supports,
that's like the public school version of gentle parenting.
Oh, yeah. I hadn't heard gentle parenting, but it sounds similar.
Man.
And there's several other. PBIS seems to be the most popular. But, teachers
PBIS is going to give them PTSD.
Oh, totally. Especially to the teacher.
Yeah.
The teacher's going to get PTSD and the innocent children. But literally, I was still teaching when PBIS came into being. And so I remember all of a sudden we're having all these meetings and we're told that we're no longer going to suspend children. We're going to do all these... all this paperwork that was supposed to somehow make the kids behave better. And I remember going to my principal and saying, has there been a policy change? Like, why are we doing this? First of all, I'm buried in paperwork. I'm exhausted. This child's behavior is getting worse and worse. And they always gave me the discipline problems because they knew I'd deal with them and love them and teach them. So now I've got all these behavior problems, but nothing's being done about it. I send them to the principal. They come back in 5 minutes with a note that says, "Dear Mrs. Friedrichs, I'm sorry, I'll never do it again." 5 minutes later, they do it again. So no consequences.
There's no teeth to it.
Nothing. No, all they do is encourage more misbehavior. So this PBIS, and I forget the names of all of it. Gentle parenting sounds familiar. But this is all part of the racial equity discipline policies that were brought in. So here's basically how it works. The teachers' unions and Obama administration decided that, children of color are being suspended in higher numbers than children who are not of color. They didn't look at, like we said earlier, no scientific backing.
Well, just no facts.
Exactly. They didn't look into...
Is there a reason why?
Exactly. I have a black teacher friend who said exactly that. He said the reason more of our black students are being suspended is because more of them have behavior problems.
There's disproportional toward the black community.
Exactly.
Which, by the way, fatherlessness in the black community is their number one issue that they face.
Exactly.
And that has been, by the way, incentivized by our American welfare system,
Exactly.
who gives more money to women if they just have a baby daddy,
Exactly.
rather than a husband in the home.
It's unbelievable.
It's like this terrible cycle that we just keep staying in.
And destroying families, destroying children.
100%.
And it's the teachers' unions are behind that as well. They believe in all of that. So, the government can raise your child, right? It's a total disaster. So, so many teachers are unaware that they are funding this with their union dues. And so the problem continues because it's always being fed.
Yeah, and you're like, get out of the unions. Please, you guys, you got to get out of the unions. I'm curious because you spent a lot of time as a teacher, and now you know more and more and more homeschool parents, and I think a lot of them feel ill-equipped when they first start. And I always tell people, listen, homeschooling is not the same as putting your kid in a classroom with 30 other children,
right?
And you have to do a little bit of detox. But when I meet a really good teacher like you, and I would put my daughter's mother-in-law, Carol, in this category. She loves kids, and you can see it. I saw it in you, Rebecca, when I was giving you a tour of the resource center, and your eyes just light up because you're an educator.
Yeah.
And you love teaching children.
I miss my students so much it hurts.
Yeah. Yeah, you need to start a homeschool resource center. You'd be so good at it. What are some tips? Talk to the parents right now who are just feeling like overwhelmed with the idea of like all of a sudden I'm my child's teacher. Yeah. So that we can create and cultivate a love of learning in our kids.
Yeah, I think we teach our children to love learning when we love learning. So when we love books, they love books. When we get excited about storytelling, they get excited about storytelling. My son and I used to sit up really late at night, and I would just tell him Bible stories, and he just loved them. He would just suck it all up. And so when we show excitement about something, they get excited. So it's that simple. And then the thing I would say to parents too, because I've just watched for so long as parents have been lied to. There's this evil agenda that wants to suck your kid away from you, that wants to destroy your family, that wants to have unfettered access to your innocent child while you're not there.
Unbelievable.
Okay? These are not safe people, right? It's not like, generations ago where you can just trust the school. It's not like that anymore. Yes, there are some good teachers, but the system is so corrupted, and there really are people in charge of the system that want to harm you and your kids. So I pray that parents can see that so that they can see beyond the propaganda.
And this is really coming, the fact that this is coming from a public school educator.
Yeah.
And you love teaching.
I do.
And you went to school to do it.
I did.
And now you're here going, these guys are actually injuring your kids. I've said, man, the public schools injure our children, body, soul, mind, and spirit.
Yes, they do. And they injure the teachers and the family the same way.
They injure the family unit.
They do.
And I think that's one of the things I love about here, and you and I were talking about this yesterday, you don't drop your kids off here. Like we reach the whole family.
Amazing.
You reach the whole
as
family.
It should
so
be.
We're not separating parents from their children. And even the people that work here, there's a giant area of our building that's just for families because it's the staff kids. So when mama is working, babies and their kids are right there. And they're homeschooling right next to their parents while their parents are working. God never designed for families to be separated like this.
I'll share a personal story with your listeners. So what you do here was my dream. I wanted to be a homeschool mom so badly. Before my son was born, I knew I'm going to be a homeschool mom. But because of circumstances in my life, I ended up becoming a single mom. And I had to go work in the public school to put food on the table. And I had to send my son to preschool. I would bawl my eyes out every single morning. Drop him off. I'm bawl thinking about it. Drop him off, bawl all the way to school, get to work all day, do everything I had to do, come back, pick him up in the afternoon. There was one point, and his preschool teachers were sweet little Christian school, but there was one point where he tried to escape because he saw a school across the street, and he said, my mommy works at the school. He did not belong in that daycare situation. It was horrible. It was like the worst nightmare to me to have my child there. So there's parents like me who would have given my right arm for something like you're offering, or to homeschool, to have that beautiful arrangement for my child, and I didn't get it. So I would tell those parents, I'm much older now. My son's almost 30 years old. Take advantage of. Do you have a child at home? take advantage of the time with your child. That child's going to grow so fast. Don't go send your child to the school system where they're going to damage him and teach him things that are untrue or that are going to damage them for life.
They have your children for the best hours of their day.
That's right.
I mean, they really do. And
That's
I posted something went viral maybe a couple weeks ago now. And I was saying, I was reacting to some videos of mothers holding their like 8 and 10-week-old little babies, and they're sobbing because the next morning they have to go back to work.
It's not as it should be.
No, and it doesn't have to be that way.
It doesn't have to be.
I am so frustrated with a culture that has told us that we absolutely can't do it unless both the mom and the dad are working. I mean, yes, there are circumstances that require it. Divorce, things like that have happened.
Which shouldn't be happening either.
Honestly, and I know a lot of single moms who are homeschooling now.
Amazing.
But the reality is, I'm looking at this mother and so many of these moms, and this is what they tried to do to me too. When my oldest daughter, who's 34 now, was a newborn, they try to tell you that you have to go to work.
Yeah. That's what they want.
Yeah, and instead...
That's the communist system.
It is.
The government will raise your child, you go work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And oh my word. I mean, we decided, no, I'm going to keep Savannah with me. And what it meant was we were broke.
It's okay.
That's what it meant.
Have one car instead
and
of
that's
two.
all we had. We had one car. We had, pretty cheap rent because we didn't live in a great neighborhood.
Right.
All of our clothes came to Goodwill. I went thrift store shopping with our kids. We learned rice and beans. My favorite cookbook was a cookbook that I bought at a thrift store, and it's literally called the Rice and Beans Cookbook.
I love it. Well, what
and
you
it was
did
all
was...
the things you can do with rice and beans. And guess what? None of my kids look back and go, "Man, we grew up in a poor family."
No, they grew up with love.
Yeah.
And, what you did was set your priorities straight. And so I don't know if you have any pastors that listen to your show, but I would really like to talk to the pastors briefly. What happened I don't want to share publicly because I don't ever want to make anybody look bad. But what happened in my life when I ended up being a single mom, I went to the church for help. Please help. I'm in this situation. Please help. And there wasn't any help available. And based on what was happening with my spouse, it was almost like the men in the church froze.
Yeah.
It was too much for them. They couldn't take that on.
Yeah.
So we're going to let a vulnerable woman and her little 2-year-old child take on this behemoth grief alone. We're not going to support. And I really believe, because I wanted to keep my family together. I didn't want my child to grow up in a single parent environment ever. That's just the horrible gift that keeps on giving.
It is.
To this day. But there was literally nobody I paid a counselor, but there was literally nobody. And I believe especially when a spouse like myself is willing to forgive but there still has to be a process.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
And I really believe if the church, instead of being afraid or judgmental or whatever, would step up and get behind these families and help them through it, I think we could save a lot more marriages and save a lot more kids and get a lot more kids homeschooled. So it's
spiritual.
It is spiritual.
I mean,
my goodness.
The battle is spiritual, and the battle lines have been very clearly drawn.
They're drawn.
And we understand that the adversary of our soul is after our families.
Yes, he is.
And he understands if he can take out a mother and a father,
Yep.
he's got a clean shot at a child.
Yes, he does.
That's what it's always ever only been about. And it's the church who should be stepping into the gap.
Exactly.
And honestly, if the church is doing what it's supposed to be doing, we wouldn't have food banks.
We wouldn't be in this place.
We wouldn't be in the situation.
That's right.
We would not have the government system as we know it today.
That's right.
And Rebecca, for all the years that my husband and I have planted homeschool co-ops, we've done this in cities across the United States for 25 years.
Amazing.
If I had a nickel for every pastor that we approached in almost every state in the union and said, "Hey, would you guys start a homeschool ministry in your church?" People will come. I promise you.
I will.
So many of them said, "Oh, we don't do that," because they didn't want to offend the tithing member of their church who might have been a school board member. They didn't want to make it appear like they were taking a side. And I just want to cry out to these pastors: take a side for the love.
Take the side of the Lord.
Take the Lord's side.
The side of the family.
Yes. And instead, we've seen an entire generation of kids lost, largely because these pastors are cowards. And they don't want to take a stand. I think it's improving, but it's improving too slow.
It's very
for
slow.
me.
It's very slow. You know, when the radical sex ed hit our schools, and I know your audience is very familiar with it, I had been trying to expose it for a while because when I started writing editorials to expose the unions and their agenda, I received an email from a mom. This was in 2012. And the email, I'll never forget it, the title of the email was The Latest Horror. And she sent me an email with an attachment, and the attachment was a curricula called Making Proud Choices, written by Planned Parenthood. At that time, the curricula was only 69 pages long, and yes, they chose 69 pages because they're perverts. They purposely picked that number. Okay, so I read the whole curricula. Nowadays, these sex ed curricula are 500 and 600 pages. It's hard to sit down and read it all. They were written in large letters, and so I read through the whole thing. And all these disgusting lessons, the condom relay races that you were supposed to do in, mixed company.
Yeah.
Tell it to Tanisha, where this little girl is, taking questions from kids and telling them, well, I had sex with a boy, now I want to have sex with a girl. I mean, directed to 12-year-olds, 10-year-olds. Mm-hmm. And this mom tells me that.
Yeah, you're a fourth grader.
Yeah, and this mom's daughter was in third grade, and she's telling me this is being taught in her daughter's class, and she took the time to look into it and pulled her daughter out, but she was so disgusted by it, and she wanted my help exposing it. So I was invited to meet with a group of pastors, probably about 25 pastors. Heidi, it was the most awkward day. I was the only woman in the room, and I was asked to tell them about the sex ed, to make them aware, because this was very early on. People didn't know what was going on. And so I start telling
It's hard to even talk about it.
Oh my gosh,
it's
so
graphic.
embarrassing. It is.
And we're putting this in front of third graders.
Exactly. Okay, so why? Because the devil and his team want to break down the natural boundaries that God put in these children to protect them from perverts. So now the perverts themselves are bringing in this wicked curricula, and children are being exposed to this all over them. And it's been going on for decades.
What do you say to people who go, that's not in my school? That's not in, I live in a red state.
They're wrong.
Yep.
They're wrong. And I'll tell you why they're wrong. First of all, I live in an extremely red area. Our school board has been controlled by the left for decades, by the teacher unions. And people all thought, oh, everything's wonderful in our school. Nope, we have these dirty books all over our school district. Yep. It's in every state. It's all over the world. It's being pushed through the United Nations. It's everywhere. And it's time we all awaken to it. It doesn't matter how great you think your school district is.
Or how much you like your child's teacher.
That's right.
Or if your child's principal is a Christian.
That's right.
Or any of those things. It doesn't matter.
It's there. It's in that district. And so, or it's in the system, right? And it's going to impact your child at some point. So anyway, I'm telling these pastors about, because the person that organized it said these pastors need to know. They need to know what's being taught. So I'm telling them the graphic stuff. And at some point I stopped and I said to the pastors, I just have to share how uncomfortable I feel. I'm the only woman in the room. I never thought I'd talk about any of these things in my whole life. I never even heard of some of these things in my whole life.
No, it's awful.
Dental dams and all this crazy stuff.
It's awful.
And I just said, what's wrong? How did we get to this place? Why is it that I, a woman, am telling you, pastors, about this graphic content being placed in front of our children? What happened? And I asked the pastors, will you speak out about it? And they were kind of quiet. I mean, there were a couple great pastors in the room. Pastor Jack Hibbs was there, and he's nodding his head, Pastor Tim Thompson was there, another warrior. If you don't know him, you should. Great man. Anyway, and I asked these pastors, why? Why have we gotten, how did we get to this place? And why aren't you addressing it? Can you tell me, are you willing to address this? One pastor had the courage to tell me. He knew why the pastors weren't addressing it and the culture war in general. He said, we don't want to lose tithing members.
Come on. That's what they said to me.
He was honest. Yeah.
Come on. It's true.
It's all about the money.
I had a pastor tell me one time that he referred to people in their church as giving units.
Oh my goodness.
He said,
he probably learned that in seminary.
Probably. So there's only so many giving units.
Wow.
And we can only afford to send, so many of them packing. And if we take, this position on home education, I'm like, you don't have to take a position at all. The position is the biblical position, which
That's
is
right.
We are to protect our children.
That's right.
And the schools have set themselves up against God. Jesus said, you're either for me or against me. Well,
me.
are the schools for God?
No.
No.
They're against him.
Well, then they're against him.
That's right. All I can say to that giving unit thing is get behind me, Satan.
No
That
kidding.
is unbelievable, but I'm not shocked at all. I know the seminaries have been very infiltrated.
Well, this is why Megan Basham's book, Shepherds for Sale,
so important.
is so groundbreaking.
Yeah, such a great
because
read.
she was able to get out there ahead of this narrative and say, this is actually happening.
Yeah.
No, we're not making this stuff up.
Right.
Like
No, that's
we're not
right.
making it up. This is really happening. One time when I was teaching, or when I was looking at curriculum. Sorry, guys, I have a cough drop in my I'm trying really hard not to cough. I went to a curriculum review meeting for the comprehensive sex education that's happening right here in Battleground. And, okay, so, Rebecca, there are thousands of students in this district. Thousands. Do you know how many parents are at this meeting?
0, 1.
Like maybe 10.
Yeah.
Okay, so hardly any. And they're giving us, and my kids aren't even in the system.
Right.
Right? I just want to know what the heck is going on. So the school administrator goes around and she plops down in front of every parent who was there, like a 400-page binder with, and I know kind of what I'm looking for. And so I'm kind of speed reading because this is our chance,
Yeah.
We're going to review it in the 45 minutes that we have to go through 600 pages of garbage.
And I just have to interrupt.
Yeah.
The collective bargaining is what caused that problem. It used to be that we would have a full review committee that would sit on curricula for an entire year. And they would meet monthly. I've led those committees.
Because that's how long it takes.
That's right. We'd meet monthly. We'd completely read all the curricula, choose one or two that we wanted to pilot to see if they were any good. And then a year later, see what were the results of this pilot. That whole process has been destroyed. That's how serious the collective bargaining issue is.
So thank you to the teachers union.
Right. That's right.
Well, I've never, because my kids aren't in the public school, I just happen to care about the kids in this district.
Yeah,
and I think we
amazing.
all should.
Yes,
Right? Because
of
one of these kids could likely marry one of my kids.
Exactly.
I really like to know what you're learning. Anyway, I get to this. They're talking about birth control. And they're talking about
Which they shouldn't be talking to our children about.
So this is my disclaimer, guys. If you've got little kids listening, now's a good time for you to maybe turn it off and come back when you're not around your little people. Because I'm going to use some language that might send some of you into next week. So I'm reading through this. One of the things that they are teaching these young girls is that anal sex is birth control.
I know. That's from the teacher union.
They never say how damaging this is.
No, of course not.
Not only to a young girl's body, but also to her mind.
That's right.
And her soul.
That's right.
They never say, they're talking about anal sex as if it was, you don't want to get pregnant?
Yep.
Then have sex this way.
Oh, it's all about having as much sex as you can without getting pregnant.
It was amazing to me. And so I'm reading this and I'm like earmarking I'm going to come back to this one. I go a little bit farther down and they're doing exactly what you're saying. Dental dams, every kind of perverted way you can possibly think of to have sex.
Yeah.
And they get to condoms and they're talking about condom use. And they list the pros and the cons of condom use. And the pros are, the stuff we all know. Like it usually prevents pregnancy. It usually prevents sexually transmitted diseases. In the con column, there's only one. You know what it was?
No,
Parents can find them.
Oh my gosh.
It was literally right.
Unbelievable.
It was right there.
Unbelievable.
This was in the curriculum to 5th grade kids.
Oh, I believe
Your parents could find them.
I believe this.
So here's a reason not to use a condom. Your mom and dad, those backward idiots who think they know more than you do, could possibly find out that you're having sex.
That's right.
So I raised my hand again. And the school administrator, they're like, yes, Mrs. St. John, what do you want? I said, I like to just, direct everyone's attention, to page 176. And you'll notice, and I explained to them, and the administrator's like, that's not in the curriculum.
Hadn't read it.
Right. And I'm like, no, I'm literally reading it to you.
Yeah. Can I tell you how that happens? So what they do is they set up a portal for the parents, for the school board members, whatever. Come to this portal and you can see samples of what's in this curricula. Those portals, and they're controlled by a password and stuff. They always show only the really tame stuff, like about adoption or learning about how your body works, right? All the tame stuff is in that. So that's what that person knows. They've never looked at the entire curricula.
It was amazing.
Anyone who's looked at those entire curricula knows it's child abuse. They know it's
well, and people need
destructive.
to understand this stuff is being published by the likes of Planned Parenthood.
That's right.
And,
that's right. Oh, and
GLAD.
Yeah, publishers you
and
never heard of
Lambda.
before.
Yes.
Yes. I mean, there were some specific publishers that showed up over and over in our schools for a long time, and then the sex ed came in. All different publishers you've never heard of. Just like who knows who. And by the way, they're all members of the NEA.
And naturally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I want to go back to something really quick because we were talking about the pastors and how they're worried about losing their giving units. Or hopefully not all pastors think that way. But when I asked this group of pastors, why they weren't fighting the cultural battle that the Bible makes it so clear we need to fight, and they told me that they were worried about losing members who were paying tithes. Or I said to them, I want you to know something. My husband and I tithe because the Bible tells us to tithe. We're obeying God, and we give him our first fruits. I said, but we haven't given to a church in years because we can't find a church in our community that's relevant.
Wow.
That's dealing with the, what God tells us to do. Like Nehemiah.
Right.
He don't be political. Nehemiah was political.
What in the world is that?
Yeah,
oh,
exactly.
Man.
So I told them, I
Do
said,
not
look.
get me started.
Yeah. So I said, look, my husband and I still tithe. We're just giving to Pregnancy Resource Center and things like that are actually doing the Lord's work. And I said, if you would have the courage to take on this battle, if you would have the courage to, deal with the culture scripturally, I guarantee you, you will lose some tithing members, but you will gain.
Come on.
Tons more. And Jack Hibbs is in the room, nodding his head yes, because
I'm trying
his
to get
church
Jack to come here and
exploded.
do my show. Come on,
I'm
Jack.
sure he will.
Come on.
I'm sure he will. He loves you. But, these pastors that have the courage, they find that their churches grow exponentially because that's what we're all looking for. We're looking for a church that actually lives out the faith.
Yeah.
And if you do it, if the pastors would just step up like that, they'll be shocked how much they grow.
Read the room. Read the room. Look and see what's happening to your kids.
Yeah.
Look and see what's happening to these parents who have been put in the impossible situation of saying, okay, I'm going to do this really hard thing. I'm going to take my kids out and I'm going to homeschool them, which, by the way, is sanctifying.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
I love to tell homeschool moms, you want to find out how wicked you are, homeschool your kids. Like, you're going to know inside of 10 minutes. Wow, look at that. I'm actually a jerk in real life, right?
Yeah.
Wow, look at me. I don't have the patience I thought I did, or whatever. Yeah. And God wants to use it. And pastors should be coming alongside these parents.
Absolutely.
I mean, they should
be empowering them.
100%. And we have an opportunity. This is interesting. I'm going to read this to you. I'm going to see what her name is. A girl named Johnny, I don't know how you say your name, wrote into me. And she has a question about school boards. She's from Albany, Oregon, and I know you're pretty familiar with Oregon. You've spoken there a few times, not necessarily in Albany, but they have an election coming up, school boards. She said her kids are homeschooled. They used to be in the public schools, and she pulled them out during COVID.
Good for her.
And she wants to go to the local school board candidates and ask them really good questions. And so she's asking she said, I have a neighbor who's running for school board. I'm not exactly sure where she stands, but she would like our support. And I do know her as a neighbor and she's amazing, but I don't know where her stance would be on policy and curriculum. She's a teacher. She's been a teacher for 30 years. I think she'd be a great asset to the school board, but I want to make sure I'm endorsing one who will stand up for conservative Christian values. What kinds of things should parents be asking? Because you should still be homeschooling your kids and stay involved in the public school.
Absolutely.
And are you going to be exhausted?
Yes,
you are. I mean, are you tired?
Yeah, I'm exhausted.
Yeah, I'm tired. I mean, you can hear it in my voice. I'm tired. Jesus never said it wasn't going to be easy. He said, in this world, you're going to have trouble. But take heart, I've overcome the world. Yeah. Right? And it's like Pastor Rob and I were talking about our friend Ken Ortiz, who's a pastor at Calvary Chapel in Eastern Washington. And I was talking to him about my surgery, and I was telling him, I was just crying, and I was just saying, I just feel I have so much like passion sort of courses through my veins and all these things that I want to do. And I feel like, I don't want to be taken off the battlefield.
Or slowed down.
And he was like, "Oh no, but he said, God's people are never, God's not going to retire you. He's going to show you how to reload. Sometimes you just need to reload, right? It's just an opportunity to just reload."
Wow.
And I said, "Well, because Ken's in his 70s now, I'm in my mid 50s, he's in his mid 70s. I said, "What's your encouragement for those of us who are in the thick of the battle?" And he didn't even skip a beat. And he just goes, "Run as hard as you can for as long as you can. With all your strength, all your soul, and all your might, because there's going to come a day when you can't run anymore.
Yeah.
So do it while you can." And I just feel like, man, that's the thing. You come to me, you tell me your kids aren't in the public school, so you don't care.
You better care.
What in the world? What
care.
part of the Great Commission did you miss?
Right.
What part of love your neighbor as yourself did you miss? These kids are dying.
That's right.
And we should care about it.
That's right.
That's my tangent. So this lady in Albany wants to know, what are some good things that we could ask people who want to be on school boards?
Yeah, the first question I would ask is, are you endorsed by the teacher union?
Ooh.
Because if they're endorsed by the teacher union, it means
they're going to promote educational quackery.
That's right. And it means two things. If they're endorsed by the teacher union, they're either part of the activism of the teacher union, or they're naive. And you don't want either one. You don't want a naive school board member who's going to get in there and be manipulated. The second thing,
really good.
The second thing I would ask them is, were they involved in the PTA? And the reason I would ask that is the PTA has been taken over by the unions since the 1960s. And so what the unions do...
It's kind of brainwashing in the PTA.
Oh my goodness. But here's what they do. They watch the PTA members. The one they can manipulate, the one that or one that's maybe, I don't know, angry, mean girl, whatever. They hone in on the ones they know they can control. And they say, "Hey, you're so amazing. You should run for school board. We want to get behind you for school board." Build up the ego. "Oh yeah, I'll run for school board. And then we'll get you on the assembly. You want to be on the state assembly? You want to be in the Senate?"
Oh my goodness.
And they build up the egos of these people, have them run, and then completely they do the agenda.
Own them then.
They own them. They own them.
They own them because after all, you got the position because these guys helped you.
Exactly. So that would be my first two questions is, are you endorsed by the teacher unions? Are you endorsed by or part of the PTA?
Okay, so it looks like this question's from Rhonda. I maybe had the name wrong earlier. Looks like the question's from Rhonda. This is such a great question. So Rhonda asked, are you endorsed by the school board and have you served on the PTA, or do you?
No, are you endorsed by the teacher union?
Are you endorsed by the teachers union?
Endorsed by the teachers unions. And are you endorsed by the PTA?
Okay.
Or, were you recruited through the PTA?
Should we ask people who want to run for school board how they feel about comprehensive sex education?
Of course. Yeah, you should ask them, anything that you know about that's a concern to you, of course you should ask them. But
how do they feel about pornographic books in your school libraries?
Exactly, but you have to be aware of something. So if this person has been hand selected by the unions, PTA, whatever, and they're naive, or I hate to say it, Stalin called them useful idiots.
Yep.
There are a lot of useful idiots out there.
Yep.
Decent people who really think they're doing a good job, who've been sold a bill of goods and believe it. So this is you have to go with so much wisdom. I mean, I guess the first piece of advice I should have said is pray. Ask God to give you wisdom. Ask him to give you a spidey sense or a gut, a pit in your gut.
Small voice. You got to learn to listen to the still small voice.
Exactly. And because when you go to speak to that person might be very manipulated. And so they might answer your questions in a way where you think they're just fine, right? So you're just going to have to dig a little bit. And I would ask, well, what do you think about the comprehensive sexuality education? See what they know about it. If they say something like, "Oh, well, we're just teaching our children about their bodies and blah, 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 blah," that's naive.
Right.
It's naive.
You don't get it.
If they're naive, you don't want to vote for them. So,
it's true. You know what? I mean, Rhonda brings up such a good question because, I ran for Congress, and it's a minefield. It's a wow, what an experience though. You want to see like the gates of hell unleashed, run for school board.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, it's so true.
Because
it is
we can't say it loudly enough. It is education. Read my lips. It's all about education.
That's how they get them.
Yeah. And these are the gatekeepers.
That's right.
Right? The school boards, if you've got comprehensive sex ed in your schools, if you've got pornographic books in your school libraries, the school board could do something about it.
That's right.
And most of them won't.
That's right.
You got Sonia down in your neck of the woods. Are you watching her running for school board down there?
Yeah,
She's
she's
a
great.
Firecracker. She was
fighter.
on my show, and I was like, girl, you're going to burn it up.
Oh, no, she's great. She's great. And I'm going to tell you, so in my community, I live in a super conservative community, but our school board has been run by the teachers' unions for decades. We've had so many nightmares
Because
in
we
our school
didn't
district.
realize, I mean, honestly, in defense of normal people, we didn't realize what was happening.
That's right.
We didn't realize that they were going after little kids.
That's right. And in defense of people like me, teachers like me who've been screaming about this since 1988, nobody wanted to listen.
No.
It's a lot of this, la, 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 la. People don't want to know their kids are being sexualized, right? Until it got so bad.
Well, because then you have to do something about it.
That's right.
Because now you're forced to confront the reality of what's happening, and either you do something about it or you're complicit in it.
That's right.
There really is only two options. That's how I feel about parents. Like, pull your kids out of the public schools or prepare to answer to God for it.
Exactly. And that's how I feel about public school teachers. If you're going to stay in the public school, so there's a lot of teachers who really believe that's their ministry to be in the great.
Yeah, great.
Don't fund the evil.
Yeah.
And like you said, we'll answer to God for it if we're funding that evil. So I just want to tell a positive story because it's a massive school district, way too big. I don't agree with school districts, and I like what you're doing is great. Yeah. We flipped the board. So
love that.
Yeah, I'm so proud of my husband. He actually ran a Patriot store every single day from mid-August to December 31st. He was in that Patriot store at our local mall. The local mall owner gave us the shop. The mall owner gave us the shop, and we had to pay like $1 a month or something. And anyway, he's running this store and other
like Patriot gear. He was selling like T-shirts and hats and stuff.
Yeah, Trump gear. Yeah, and all these other volunteers came in and helped, and we raised so much money, and we helped flip that board. So the board gets flipped, and so now we have a 5-4 majority. Well, the teachers' unions are unhinged.
Oh yeah,
and they're activists with all their hair.
It's demonic.
It is demonic.
Come on, I mean, it's the devil's playground.
It is 100%. So last week we have a school board meeting. It was the first time in decades that the good guy community members and just your average taxpayer out there outsmarted the teacher unions. It was beautiful. I want to tell it so your listeners can do the same thing.
It can be done.
It can be done. So what do the unions always do? They've been doing this for decades. They show up hours before the school board meeting. Hours. 3-4 hours, because they're being paid to be there.
Right.
And they're paid activists. They show up super early. They get all the speaker cards. They fill all the chairs. And then when public comments come, everybody thinks everybody agrees with this crazy agenda because everybody who has a speaker card and a chair is pushing this agenda.
That's right.
Well, the good guys in our communities outsmarted them, arrived an hour earlier than the unions usually arrive, got most of the speaker cards, filled most of the chairs, and the comments during public comments were beautiful.
This is war.
It is war.
It is war. That is what we call strategy.
Yeah, we need some war rooms going on.
Yes.
And here's what was amazing. So, of course, I told everybody, the minute we flip this board, the union's going to work
They're going to freak out.
Well, they're not only going to freak out, they're going to work to do a recall and force, and they lie to the community. I mean, they make good people turn against good board members all the time because they lie to them. Ooh. So, and
I've seen some Republicans like that.
Oh yeah, it's on both sides. There's no doubt. So anyway, instead of trying to force a recall, they're trying to recall one person because we have a one-person majority, right?
So all they have to do is get rid of one.
That's right.
So they
falsely accused her. Well, they falsely accused her of using the N-word during a board meeting. Now, she did use it. She was quoting a line out of a book that they wanted to bring into the district.
Shall we?
Yeah, really.
Let's really read the books.
And she was just
Where's Karen?
She was this sweetheart of a lady, right? She's been on the board for a while. And so the left turned this into, teachers unions turned this into that she was this horrible racist, right? And they get the whole community all stirred up. She's a racist. We got to get rid of her. Well, the community outsmarted them, got in there earlier, and gave the most beautiful speeches. Even young, senior in high school came up and said, when a trustee twists what another trustee said, we don't trust you anymore.
Right.
The fact that you claim that she used the N-word in a derogatory way when she didn't, she was just quoting it from a book that you already had proved.
You just discredited yourself.
Yeah. And so these kids were amazing. I can't even tell you how articulate they were. And it was just beautiful. It was a win. It solved it,
Is it still that? Do you still is it flipped to this day?
This just happened last week where they tried to get rid of this lady. It
out
didn't
of
work.
town.
And what ended up happening was the speakers were calling for the resignation of the 2 trustees that created all these lies. And
That's what needs to happen.
That's exactly what needs to happen. So it was beautiful, and we can do it. We just can't. We can't give up, and we can't lose faith, right? I see that so often. I see that in myself. I just get tired, right? And for so many years, I fought this battle alone.
Yeah, we are tired.
Yeah.
We are tired.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm over here like, we're calling in reinforcements.
Yeah.
Like you guys, I mean, everybody who's listening to this, people like, Rebecca on the front lines of this thing forever and ever, amen, dragging herself all the way to the Supreme Court. I'm over here, obviously my voice is gone, so try to avoid, reading too much into this. But we're working ourselves to the bone.
Yeah. And
we need reinforcements.
We do.
And it isn't enough for, it's not enough for me to do a podcast. I was talking to Rob McCoy, we were recording the other day, and he started crying, like in the middle of his talk, because there's so much to do.
There is.
There is so much to do.
The harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few.
Yes, and this is our time. Mm-hmm. Like every person listening to this, you guys, I'm like, get off the bench. Get onto the battlefield. This is your life. Show up for it. Like, when are you going to start showing up for the lives of your kids and the lives of your neighbors' kids? Mm-hmm. Like, this is the assignment. Yeah, and we got to learn. We got to learn to read the room. Rebecca, we are out of time. I can't believe this. You have a plane to catch. I don't. I got 5 minutes now to get you to the airport. I so appreciate you and love you so much. I knew the minute I read that book. And you had me so fired up. I was like, this is a woman who I need to know. And you're a national treasure. And everybody that's listening to this, I hope you guys will go out and get her books, Standing Up to Goliath, right? Mm-hmm. It's your story of taking this case to the Supreme Court and unearthing what's happening in our schools at the hands of these woke mobster school unions. Right. Such an important work that you've done and that you are doing. If people want to find you, where do they do that?
They can find me at forkidsinCountry.org. It's our website, or they can find me on social media at Rebecca for Kids, and that's all spelled out. REBECCAFOR, kids. I am shadow banned on all social media.
Naturally.
So, of course, you need to go right to my page, but please sign up. When you're shadow banned, you don't grow as fast either. So we'd love to have you. You just have to check in now and then. We're posting all the time.
And honestly, you guys go find her on social media and then start commenting and stuff, because you can find her and start commenting. Then that will help alleviate that shadow ban. I have been the victim of a shadow. I shot up my numbers to like 418,000 or something on Facebook 5 years ago. Mm-hmm. And Facebook sent me a letter and said, we don't like your content.
Yep, that's right.
We're going to, just so you know, we're going to throttle your reach.
Right.
And I haven't really grown any
Exactly.
since then.
That's exactly. So I spoke at the 2020 RNC. Ooh. I was the first speaker on the first night after Charlie Kirk introduced the night, and then I was the first testimony. And that's when everything shut down.
Yep.
And at that time it was Twitter. They completely shut. They didn't shut the page down, but the shadow ban totally. And even with X taking over, it hasn't been overcome yet, because these algorithms are just unbelievable.
I know it.
So until somebody important is aware of the problem doesn't go away. So it's been
frustrating.
But you know what? I have to say something. Even though it's been extremely disheartening and exhausting, my husband and I, we run this little nonprofit. We're both volunteers. We've given up a lot to do this, and including my career, gave up my career to do this. And we get exhausted from this kind of stuff. But the way we have to look at it is, why are we being attacked? Mm-hmm. Right? What is
you're over the target?
Exactly. We're over the target. And if we're doing something that's exposing Satan's agenda so hugely, of course we're going to be attacked. Mm-hmm. His side cannot win without deception.
That's right.
And cheating, mm-hmm. and trying to make our side exhausted. So if you're exhausted like I am, exhausted like you are, it means you're on the right track. Mm-hmm. And we just have to keep getting refilled.
You're like William Wallace, when he saw the reinforcements coming up over the hill, and he was like, it's over. And and you just think, I'm just going to take a nap. I just want to take a nap. I'm just so tired. And you see, oh no, we're not alone.
Yeah.
And so for people who are, in little towns and cities across the United States, get involved. Get
please.
involved. You guys, you can make a difference. You really can.
Yeah.
Rebecca Friedrichs, thank you for coming here. Thank you for flying here.
Yeah, thank
and
you.
for spending a little bit of time with me and with my audience. Thank you for touring the Homeschool Resource Center and for just being the beautiful light that you are. I'm looking forward to seeing you again. I have a feeling we're going to run into each other a bunch
I hope so.
in the years
It was
ahead.
an honor to be here. And your research center made me cry.
Thank you.
In a good way.
We're crying. Everyone's just crying. I love you, girl.
Love you too.
All right, you guys, that's all I've got time for today. I hope this has been an encouragement to you. And listen, my voice mostly made it. So this is exciting. Thank you guys so much for listening. Get off the bench, get onto the battlefield. And we love you. I'll see you back here again at the intersection of faith and culture.